everybody, I'm Chrissy O'Malley and this is Better Science Teaching. What I'm doing today in a video that is not sponsored by Postit Notes is setting up my planner for the whole year. I learned pretty quickly in teaching that I did not enjoy spending most of my Saturday afternoon doing planning. I have 3 preps and so sometimes it can take a while. And so I don't like to make the decision on Sunday about what's happening through the week for a couple of reasons. One, that's my family time. I spend time with my family on Sundays as much as I can. And secondly, as a science teacher, that puts me behind the 8 ball because if I want to do a lab the next week, I have to make sure that I have all the materials. And so I need to know a couple weeks in advance when I'm going to do a lab, especially if I'm ordering organisms, which are going to show up alive and they have to be cared for properly. So doing everything well in advance is really helpful. So I'm going to show you guys some tips about how to do that. Post-it notes is part of that. If you've watched my the pandemic proof planning video from last year, then you'll see me using Post-it notes. Some years I keep the Post-it notes, some years I pitch them. This was one of the years that I pitched them just because I was trying not to accumulate clutter on any of my surfaces, and so that would require having extra things going. So I just pitched a bunch of them because they need to be revised anyway every couple years. So I have a couple of different sizes, just handy. So these are the 2x2s. These are, I think they're 1.25 inches by 1.5 inches or something. And then I have these little bitty flag ones. Those are for small things. So the reason I kind of have all of those is because they fit different ways. So the way that my planner is organized is I have 1 column for to-dos, 2 columns for 1 prep, AP Bio, 2 columns for my second, 2 columns for my third, and these little rectangular guys will fit more or less in one of these. If I'm careful about it, I can actually get 2 across. These are nice because if I have something that's happening over 2 days, I will just use that for a 2-day activity. These guys tend to get used for marking things over here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go to, remember we've already gone through with our annual calendar and put in all of our all the things that we think are happening on each day. I went ahead and inked in my August calendar and my September calendar. I've got videos about both of those. Just because they're so soon, they're probably not going to wiggle too much. I did Post-it notes for all the other months so that I know what all the other major dates are. And what I'm going to do first is use these little guys and put these things in the weekly planner portions. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on that. You know, in a tangible, written out way. I've mentioned this before, when I have sticker books that are older, sometimes if I see them on a discount someplace, I go ahead and pick them up and bring them into school so that students can use them. They can take a sticker and put it on the front of their science notebook or put them on their water bottles. I don't care. But just like for me, sometimes it's nice to kind of look at my notebook and be like, oh, my notebook is cute. I like this little bird sitting here. You know, students are the same way. They like to have things that are personalized, that they know are theirs, and that they can use. So I went ahead, I showed you guys me doing August and September. So the next thing that I have is these cards. So I've got biology and chemistry and AP Bio. I'm going to do AP Bio first because that's the one that's listed first in my notebook. And so what I do is I have these cards. In each of these cards, it has things I want to make sure that I do in that unit. So labs that are absolutely critical, that sort of thing. I've been kind of rejotting these for this year. You can, you know, sometimes I use the same ones year to year. But I was just kind of thinking through how last year went, things that I liked and didn't like, and just rewrote them because it's not a big deal. So the way that these cards are, I have the unit name, how many class periods I expect that to take. With AP Biology, that's something that they actually produce for us. And so if you were teaching AP Bio, if you've never taught it before, this may help you too. College Board puts out these course at a glance pages, and I go through and I like mark them all up. So I've got on here the unit, what the title of the unit is. I wrote the chapter number and title for our textbook, which is the Biology in Focus, Campbell's Biology in Focus, which I use intentionally because if my students are going to be science majors and take a biology for science majors, frequently they end up with the Campbell's Biology textbook. And so this way that material is familiar. And if they keep their notes in their notebook, it's pretty, I mean, it's redundant. So it's very similar to what they've already seen and in the order they've seen it. So the College Board prepares this for us, and this has all the things, the ideas I need to cover, or at least sort of at a glance. And then I've included some things that I've done in class down here, just some notes that I keep throughout the year. And this is what helps set that up, because it does tell us the number of class periods that are expected and the weighting on the exam. So you could choose to save 5 to 7 days of class time, but you're going to miss 8 to 11% of the material. So, that's just part of forward thinking and planning ahead. So in terms of what I'm going to do, I don't, so if you caught me on the first day of school and said, hey, doctor, what are you going to be teaching on January 15th? I've been in school on January 15th. No, it's a Saturday. One of these days in the middle of January. I might be able to tell you what we're going to do. I might be a little bit off. But again, the point is just that I know a couple weeks ahead of time what I'm expecting to do. The other thing is I don't want to get stuck in a quagmire of a lab that's not working and spend several days trying to fix it and then being off so that some unit downstream kind of gets kicked to the curb. This year with my students, considering what was going on with the pandemic and in school days and out of school days, and I had some other things come up that I missed a few days of school. We decided that at the end, rather than going full bore into natural selection ecology, that we kind of reduced some of the things we were doing in class to just cover the essentials. So I'm planning on doing full units with them this year, but we're going to see how this lays out. So this first one says 5 to 7 class periods on the chemistry of life. We're going to do a POGL. That's going to take 3 days. I'm going to do a catalase lab. That takes at least 3 days. So that covers 6 days worth of stuff. And then we'll probably need another day for review. So the way that this will look in my notebook for that first week, our first week of school for AP Bio, I'm not going to see students on this first day because I only see freshmen. On Tuesday, I have all students, and what we'll be doing on that day is probably doing I think all the students know each other, so I need to get to know them a little bit. But what we'll be doing is talking about what their expectations for the course are, which is something that's good for me to know, and it's a good icebreaker for them to be able to start talking about the class. Wednesday, we'll probably go over their summer work, which for them is a scavenger hunt. So that's usually a good time. It might take us 2 days. So we'll be looking at maybe starting content on this day. So those things I'm just not going to write down right now. So on this page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Post-it note and I'm going to write, chem of life. Yeah, I want my first word to be messed up. Okay, chem of life. And I'm going to need 5 days of content here. So I'm going to write POGL biochem and catalase. All right. I also know that at the end of this first whole week, they're going to have a reading assignment due. So this is when they're going to have their chapter 2 notes due. Their notes are going to be, they read the chapter, and then actually this one, I think this one I usually put together 2 and 3. So they'll do chapter 2 and 3, and they're shortened a little bit. It's not whole chapters. So students will read a chapter out of their textbook, and their guided notes will be due that day. And this is going to cover 5 of those 5 to 7 class periods. So then we're going to flip over to September. Now, the reason I write these in here is so that I have a clue about if there's a shortened class period day, which there will be if there is a mess, or if there's a day that we're not going to have school. So over here, what we're going to do is we're going to finish catalase. We're going to review. And we're going to have an assessment. So that's what's going to happen on this day. So I would expect, I won't do the assessment this day. I'll probably do it this day. So we're looking at having an assessment on the 2nd. And that'll be the end of our Unit 1. So I've already sketched out what we're going to do for our first unit for AP Bio. So the next thing is going to be cell structure and function. And this is going to be 11 to 13 class periods. So generally I do agar in a day. Dialysis tubing is 2 or 3 days. This is a day. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So, and we're also going to have a couple of different chapters. We only have 2, so that's not too bad. So our agar lab is usually 1 day. Dialysis tubing. This, honestly, this ends up being about 3 days most of the time. Coacervates, I'll give that 2 days because it takes about a day to go over all the microscope stuff and then talk about what the coacervates are. This is one of those labs that either works or it doesn't work. Some kids do better than others, but it's just so that I use this mostly so we can play with microscopes and less for the coacervates. Cellcraft if it's still running. An overview. Cell membranes will be 2 days in class. Overview. 1 day for the mix and match. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. And then we'll do review and assess. All right. So over here then, I'm going to change colors because I was using green. So just to indicate that something different is happening, I'm going to grab a different color. We're going to do our agar lab. And I just, when I trim my Post-it notes, I just trim them so that they fit in the space. So now my sticky side is up at the top. If you don't have these flags and you want to make them, just cut them the other way. Easy. Okay, so we've got our agar lab. Next page. Okay, so on the next week, we're going to do our dialysis and osmosis lab. That's going to be 3 days. And then we're going to do our coacervates and coacervates. And that's going to be 2 days. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I don't have it on here for some reason, is that this is Labor Day. So that's going to be a day off. So I'm going to stick this guy here. I'm going to write Labor Day. No school. Other things to keep in mind is that Friday is, I always give the students over a weekend to work on chapter notes. And so since I didn't give them one here to do because they were getting ready for their assessment, they're going to do chapter 4 notes due on this Friday. And we're going to do chapter 5 notes due the next week. And up here, remember we still had another day for our coacervates. I think that's okay. Sometimes I don't like to leave them over the weekend, but I'll double check. Coacervates is 1 day. Cellcraft. Cellcraft is from Carolina Biological, and the students enjoy it. It teaches them organelles again. We're going to have our chapter 4 overview. It's going to be 1 day. Pocal. There we go. So now we've got plans all the way through the first month. Our pocal cell membrane. I'm going to switch to the next page. Now we've got our chapter 5 overview, which which is nice because they just turned in their notes for chapter 5. Cell organelle mix and match. I do this as a whole group. There's a ton of cards, and they seem to enjoy it. I might make another set. Yeah. What's this? So this one's also ending on a Thursday. This is tricky because this is an early dismissal day. So I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. And then there's no school. On Friday. Double check that. No class. There we go. All right, so there's our first 2 units. So I could keep going, but I think that you guys probably have an idea here. The reason I like doing this is because it's a good overview of what's happening. I didn't go through and write down every objective that was being covered or pull out my handouts or anything like that. I have all those files in other places. So you don't have to keep all that stuff in your lesson planner. This is just something that I use that I can keep on my desk so that I know where I'm headed. I also can use this, what I'll do after I've sort of mixed everything around is I'll put Post-it notes on a to-do list. So I'll know that if I'm going to do, switch back to something else. If I'm doing my coacervates lab on this Friday, sometime before this Friday, I have to think about, okay, what materials do I need? I need to double check my box, make sure that I have that, make sure I have functioning microscopes, all of those things. So all those little tasks where I need to make sure everything works. I don't want to come in on Friday, the day that I'm doing that lab, and be running around the 30 minutes before school starts trying to figure that out. I'm going to do that with my planning periods ahead of time so that I don't have to worry about that. Now my cards, again, I just have unit titles, how long I expect it to take, how much of it is going to be part of my AP exam, because I can use that to gauge how much time I want to put into each unit. On the back, I went ahead and wrote down the information from that list from the College Board. This is what I need to cover. So I have those for each of my courses. I've got AP Bio. I've got one for chemistry. I use the modeling teaching stuff for chemistry, and bio, which is a new course for me, so I'm still sketching these up. But this is this is based on coordinating with the other teacher who teaches other sections of this class and thinking about our end of course exams. So another resource that you might use if you have some experience as a teacher and this isn't your first year teaching is you can always pull out one of your old notebooks. And so this one's kind of helpful, right? You guys have heard about this one before. It's my favorite. But if I go back here, I've got all these notes of the things that I had to do before. So I've got all of the to-do lists that I had, and I can look at this and think, oh, do I need to do that again this year? I've also got AP Bio. I didn't even put headings on these because this was my first one like this. AP Bio, chemistry, and physics. If I wanted to, I could just go through all my chemistry squares here and just pencil them in on the next notebook, and use that to reflect on that. Sometimes I put notes in here about things I want to change. So that's a good reason to hang on to your notebooks because they can help you with pacing. Yeah, so I hope that helps you a little bit with thinking about ways that you can plan ahead and use time in the summer, the downtime that we have, to help make your life a little bit less stressful and to reduce your workload a little bit during the school year. Because if you've planned things ahead, things are going to go a little bit more smoothly and you're not going to be surprised. So I hope that you all stay safe and you do well and have fun planning. I'll see you soon. Bye.